This is AUGforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered and independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. First, thank you to our sponsors, Repay, DataSelf, and Velixo. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention two more things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, I'm always looking for victims, guests on the podcast. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn about being a guest on the podcast. Second, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out the Instacast. Second, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out the instructions at augforums.com/Rolodex to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Today is November 22nd, 2021, and this is episode number 57. Julia Pinto, COO at Quality Material Handling, sharing her Acumatica customer story. Julia, thanks for joining us today, and I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Tim. Thank you for having me. My name is Julia Pinto, and I am the COO at Quality Material Handling. I have actually been working here, I'd like to say all my life. It's a family business, so I was essentially born into it since I was a little kid. I've been going to meetings with my father since I remember being young in elementary school, and I'd show a kid that you dragged along to the meeting. But it was the highlight of my day. I'd slick my hair back, throw on my polo, and I would, just try and join the meeting. So I've been around this business since I was little, and now I'm excited to have taken a more serious role within the company and looking forward to the success that we're continuing to build.
How recent was the quote, more serious role? Like in the last couple of years or? About
10 years ago.
Okay.
I actually, when I was little, it was fun. I would show up to work, go to the meetings with my dad. And then I kind of got sick of it, right? We would eat dinners here sometime, when the company was struggling. We would eat, I would take naps at the business because it's a family business and you do whatever it takes to make it succeed. So I kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't really want anything to do with it anymore. It was around high school that I was like, I didn't want to work here. I wanted to pursue real estate development actually. And I think it was their other business where they invest in real estate. So I was really interested in real estate. I still am, but that's more of like a side thing now. But when I got to college, things started to click a little bit in my head. I'm like, you know what? As long as there's a physical good to be sold, there's always going to be a need for our industry. So like, I can't imagine this industry becoming extinct. It's always going to be around. And so I was like, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. It's not glamorous. It's not, the cool, fun jobs that most people in college want to pursue, right? You want to go for the name brand companies and get that cool experience at a big corporation. So I had to put those feelings aside and say, you know what, this makes the most sense. And I'm really thankful that I did. My parents supported me either way, but they were very happy to hear that I wanted to come on board. So in 2012 is when I started working at the company. I was just doing reception work really at that point, helping file payroll documents and just answering cell phone or phones into the main line, transferring calls and stuff. And I was just kind of getting my feet wet. And then we had an embezzlement. And at that point, it was kind of just like you had to dive in. We were embezzled by, I think she stole approximately $250,000 in cash from our business. And it really hit us hard. This was also right as we were recovering from the recession. So, it didn't make sense because we were like, wow, we're doing well. We're doing better than we were in the recession. We're selling, but we don't have money. Like, why can't we pay our bills? It just didn't make any sense to us. And then once we discovered that she was embezzling from us, then it all made sense. And so at that point, we all dove into it. I remember that first day that we discovered that there was a chance she was embezzling. My mom and I stayed till about 9 p.m. And that was kind of like the marker for me that I really just dove into the business. I slowly went, after that, it was like, I was running the installation crews. I was running the warehouse. I was invoicing. I was doing accounts receivable and payable. I kind of just got to know everything. At that time, we only had about 12 employees, including installers, drivers, and sales, myself included. So we were definitely very small staff-wise at that point. And now we've grown to have about 45 employees.
Wow. Just within less than 10 years. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been pretty drastic, and it's fun, but there's challenges when you're growing, right? Sometimes you feel like you're in this hamster wheel, you can't catch up, and then you finally do. And it's like, okay, we're growing some more, but I'm very thankful for the growth. But it's not easy to experience such rapid growth. And so fortunately, being that we're a family business, we're able to all join forces. My father, my mother, my dad is the CEO. My mom is our CFO. So she handles all the legal, the finance matters. And then my husband actually is our sales manager. So he handles all the sales side of things and the engineering side of stuff. And then I oversee pretty much after the sales made to when we deliver the finished good to our customers.
And so what is that? What does quality material handling do? What's the company known for, and what do they do?
So we are a general licensed contractor, and essentially we're committed to providing end-to-end solutions for our customers, people that have distribution, logistics, and warehousing needs. So, we might start from the permitting phase, and we will manage the project, do all the permits to get everything approved through the city. We'll deliver the product, we install it, and then we do all the final inspections. So there's not one size fits all. That's kind of like that turnkey process. There's customers that come to us that just need one aspect of it, right? They might already have everything set up at their facility. They might have the racks there, but the city showed up and they're like, you know what, you're not approved. You need to get this permitted. So we might just take aspects of the process. And at the end of the day, what we really focus on is trying to take a safety and a compliance approach. So we're looking to see how can what we're going to deliver to our customers comply with city, state, any sort of government regulations that are required for the safety of their employees and the safety of their business. And that's really been what has set us apart from our competition. We all buy the same products from the same suppliers. We're all delivering racks, right? There's not much to that. But what we try to do that makes us stand apart is how can we ensure the safety of the business and the employees that are operating in it, and how can we ensure that they're compliant?
So if I put it in like super simple terms, would you say you build warehouses?
Yep, everything with the exception of the actual building itself, right? So everything within a warehouse. So the racks for the warehouse. We also, because we're a general contractor, we do the lighting. So of course, lighting in with regards to the project scope that we're handling, right? So we might go and we did a project recently where we put in all the racks, but it didn't really line up with their lights. Their lights were actually right above the racks instead of on the aisles. So it was unsafe for the employees. They couldn't see what they were doing. And so we will relocate the lighting. That way it lightens up their aisleways. We also do the sprinkler systems within the warehouse to ensure that in the event of a fire, they've got the right protection to try and suppress the fire. And then just any sort of handling equipment, right? So what we're looking at is anything that's going to store products, protect products, or secure products. We have a solution for it.
And you're in the Los Angeles area, I think, right? Which has, I went to UCLA myself and worked a little in LA, and there is a lot of warehouse needs around there with so many goods flowing through the port.
My father-in-law
through the port.
My father-in-law also went to UCLA, so you're a UCLA.
Oh, really?
Fan. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've always been somewhat of a USC fan, but I never went to USC, but I've always liked them. But my husband and his dad are UCLA fans, so they like to talk trash. Of course, it's sports, so.
But there's a ton of warehousing needs in the whole LA area, so I'd imagine the growth potential is sky's the limit. I'm sure in terms of what you could get involved with. Is there like a specific? You mentioned safety. Is there like a specific type of industry or type of product? Whether it's maybe food versus boxed goods, or, I don't know, is there any particular specialty you focus on, or just kind of whatever comes your way?
While Los Angeles is definitely very dense, what we find ourselves doing a lot in Los Angeles is improving buildings, because the buildings are very old. Put it into whatever it is. At some point you might not even have permits because it was such a long time ago. So when our customers are renting or moving or buying new buildings in the Los Angeles area, a lot of our business there, it's not to any specific industry, but what we find ourselves doing is improving the lighting, improving the sprinkler system, trying to get them permitted, and just general storage needs. We used to be in Azusa, but about 2 years ago, we moved to Rancho Cucamonga to expand our operations. And so we're based out of Rancho Cucamonga now. I kind of say everything that if you can get to LA within an hour, you're just a part of LA. It's just this like big umbrella, right? But technically we're in San Bernardino County, and they are booming with new construction. I mean, you drive down the freeways and you just see building after building being constructed, millions and millions of square feet. And so a lot of these people are going to be distribution centers, e-commerce centers, logistics companies that they are looking for storage solutions that's going to maximize their facility, get the most amount of pallets. They want to do things by the book, so they want to make sure that they get their permits approved. And that's where we find ourselves really focusing on, is the e-commerce, the distribution, and the logistics companies of all sizes too. There's no size too small or too big. One of our favorite things really is just growing with our customers. So we've had customers where we'll do like a small little order, a couple pieces here and there. And then as they grow, they remember the way we treated them as a small business, and they want to take us along for the ride. And that's really special, because then we get to see them go into these massive facilities, boom, grow, and we get to be a part of it.
That's really cool. It almost sounds like maybe your specialty is the turnover, or I don't know if this is a phrase, but like the industrial gentrification of buildings that are been around for a while. That 1950s boom in LA, or whenever it was on the industrial side. That's very interesting.
Yeah, LA really has got a lot of older buildings. So another thing that we, aside from the storage solutions, part of the material handling, it's not just storing your products. Material handling in our industry is the movement of products throughout the supply chain, right? So you might need to get products into your building. You might need to get them out. You need to maybe store your inventory. In some situations, like we'll do cages or DEA cages, because you've got really important, valuable inventory that needs to be secured for only select people to access. And maybe you need to protect certain parts of your warehouse. And so all those products we provide, and an emphasis on the logistics side of it is bringing the stuff in and out. We manufacture dock equipment. So what we find in LA is there's a lot of buildings that are older. Maybe they don't have a dock for customers to be able to back up a truck, or they only have docks and they can't get down to the ground. So we manufacture custom solutions that allows them to be able to unload their inventory and get it into their building as effectively as possible.
So you just used the word manufacture, which triggers a question. But before I go there, let me maybe start with your introduction to Acumatica and what initially triggered the desire for, I assume maybe you're on QuickBooks or something like that. And then what was that trigger? Was it the embezzlement? Or what made you?
So we started with Mass 90. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Okay. Yeah, I am.
Well,
all right.
Before Mass 90, actually, we were on Peachtree.
Okay.
Then we moved from Peachtree. This was before my time.
Okay.
Then we moved over to Mass 90. Then Mass 90 changed names, or they kind of did a rebranding to Sage 100. And that's where I came in. I started right before we transitioned over to Sage 100. I am from the wonderful generation called millennials, right? So we're technically known for being pretty good with technology, right? My parents, on the other hand, not so much. So naturally, I kind of gravitated towards helping with all the technology aspects of the business. And, I've always been my parents' personal IT person. They'll call me, hey, the TV won't turn on. I'm like, okay, push this button, go here, clean this. So of course, with the business, that was definitely something that I was supporting them in. And for me, it was so rigid. It was just, you couldn't do much with it, right? And then we suffered the embezzlement, and it's like, well, how do we ensure that we can protect our business and have the right checks and balances in place to just to ensure that we don't let this happen again, right? And there wasn't much options with that. Sage was basically the type of thing where you open up a box and it says security settings when you couldn't say, yeah, they can see it, but they can't see this thing, and they can't click here, and they can only click here. That's what we have the features with Acumatica. There's a lot of security options that we have with that. So we were really limited on our security features, but we got by. Pricing wasn't too outrageous, so we were able to afford the software. And as I mentioned, we started off with just 12 employees when I started working here, and we had 13 user licenses. So as we were growing, people could not use the software. We were all on one floor, and we would say, hey, can someone log out? I need to log in.
I've heard that story.
And so it really wasn't an efficient way to do business. And I took on a lot of projects.
Wait, can I ask you real quick on that? Was it like the I don't know what you call it right now, the phone where you hit like the speaker and it broadcasts throughout the whole office? Is that how you would ask?
We had a paging system. My mother,
what you call it right now, the phone where you hit like the speaker and it broadcasts throughout the whole office? Is that how you would ask?
We had a paging system. My mother would jump on the paging system and say, please log out of Sage. We had a lot of problems too, like just support issues where things weren't working, or it would freeze, or we would get error messages. So we'd have to call in all the time. And then, of course, for them to fix that problem, you would hear her on the loudspeaker, can everybody log out of Sage? And then you'd hear her, 15, 20 minutes later, okay, you can now go back into Sage. And so, but it worked for us. Really what we were using it for, in all honesty, was just to create sales orders. So we have paperwork for the customer to pull the order, and then we would use it for invoicing purposes and to keep track of customer records. We weren't really using much of it. And so at that time, my eyes weren't open to any other ERP softwares. I was just thinking, okay, how can we try to we had it on Sage CRM, and that, I'm sorry, it sucked. It was horrible. It just did not function. I didn't like it. The sales team hated it. So as you can imagine, trying to get the sales team to do anything different, especially software related, it's a challenge. To get them to do something that the software is horrible is even harder. So they just didn't use the software. And so we went through that process. Then we went through implementing a software called JobOps. It was more so focused on manufacturing module, but we were trying to use it for our projects because, as I mentioned, we handle projects from start to finish. So we were trying to use it for our projects. It worked, but it really was focused for manufacturing. So you're trying to take a manufacturing software and turn it into a project software. It's not really going to function that great, but it got by. And then we were really struggling in the fact that we had a lot of people that couldn't use the software, and it wasn't remote. You could only use it if you were plugged into the wall at the business. Other than that, your software wasn't going to work. And so,
can I ask you on JobOps real quick? Like, what triggered? It sounded like you were now dipping into doing manufacturing on the system. Was it?
Yes.
Would you say it was the growth that triggered that need, or just the millennial desire to get rid of paper?
A mixture of both, but the growth definitely pushed for that. And we were with a company called Blytheco at the time, and our business partner had recommended the software to us. And so, it made sense when we're thinking that we're staying with Sage. And then we looked at the options of potentially growing to Sage X3, which is like their cream of the crop software, but it was going to be very costly. Implementation was going to be insane. And, and it seemed like it was going to help and like it was going to work, but we were still in Azusa at the time, and our internet was horrible. Our internet, we would go hours, sometimes even a day or multiple days without internet. The internet would just cut out. The building was so old, and it wouldn't just be us. It would be the other neighbors on the street. And so one of our neighbors came to us and he's like, hey, we've been talking with Spectrum. They said that they could bring in internet, but we would need to pay to run the lines. It was going to be very costly. We were going to have to pay for them to be able to bring the internet to us. And we started to look for another building. And so we kind of put that on hold because we thought, why would we go and invest in a cloud software when we barely can have internet to make our phone calls and send out emails? So we thought, you know what, let's stay on this software. That way we could at least be functional. And then when we move and we find another building that has better internet, and that was one of the main things we looked for and asked, what internet providers do you have every time we were looking at buildings? We would then switch to a cloud software systems, and we just love them. They have been awesome, and they have really supported us, and they've been a very strategic partner in our growth. They have, a ton of people that have a lot of knowledge. And what I love about them is that all of their Acumatica specialists actually have real working experience, right? So they're not just technical people that know the software. They know what it's like to work in a business, from project managers to operations managers to distribution people. So that was really helpful because you're not limited to just leaning on them on how can I use the software. You actually get to get their input on, well, this is what we're doing. What do you suggest? Oh, okay, I think we should do this. So that was really helpful. But when we switched to them, they're like, just stay on Sage. Let's just get it working. We don't want to sell you on anything new. We want to just get you to work, to be able to function better. And then we had reached the point where we were like, we are so fed up with Sage because we hadn't upgraded in quite a while. Reached the point where we were like, we are so fed up with Sage because we hadn't upgraded in quite a while, that to the point that Sage said, hey, you're no longer going to be supported because your software is so old. And at that point, it was going to be costly because you have to go and literally upgrade each computer. Like you have to sit at the computer and upgrade it, right? The workstation. And it's just, we were like, you know what, we're just done. Let's just switch. So we were like, we want to see options. And so that's when we saw Acumatica, and we were just in love. We were sold. I mean, I just needed 15 minutes to see the software. And I was like, wow, this is everything we can ask for. And the funniest part is that I would say, can we do this? Yes. Can we do this? Yes. Their answer was always yes. I go, when are you going to tell me no? And I think just recently they didn't tell me no. They just said, we can't do it the way you want to, but we can do it a similar way. But it's just amazing because Acumatica has felt like it's basically this blank canvas that we can paint whatever drawing we want.
Sounded to me like a construction company. And then when you said you're on Mass 90, it made me sound like a distribution company. And then you use the word manufacture when you were talking about the docks. So you sound like a manufacturing company. How would you describe your company, and which edition of Acumatica did you purchase?
So we have 3 legs of our business. We have the manufacturing side, where we do have a factory where we manufacture the ramps and the dock solutions. We have the distribution side. So that's going to be customers that are just buying products. We either deliver it to them or they will call it. And then we have our projects side of the company. So that's where we're doing full turnkey projects from start to finish. And we are delivering products where we might even manufacture something. There's no limit to it. It's just, hey, we're going to handle this whole thing for you from start to finish. And so those are the 3 aspects of our business. But when we started, we were strictly a distribution company. We just only bought and sold, and then sometimes we would install the product from start to finish. And so those are the 3 aspects of our business. But when we started, we were strictly a distribution company. We just only bought and sold, and then sometimes we would install the products. Then we started to add in manufacturing. I would say right around when the recession was ending is when we started to do light manufacturing. But we treated everything manufacturing related as like a kit in our software. So we would just do bill of material kits in Sage. Then we started to really grow and expand our project capabilities to where it wasn't just an installation. Now we're handling a full turnkey project. And so that's where we are actually in the process right now of implementing project accounting in our Acumatica.
Interesting. So it's yes, yes, yes. And that makes sense then why you started on Mass 90 being distribution. But then did you purchase then the Acumatica Manufacturing Edition and you're adding in projects, or how did it work?
So when we went from Sage to Acumatica, it was definitely a jump. Just start with the distribution module and the CRM. So we've got the CRM module, I think they call it marketing. And then we've got the distribution module. And we knew what our plans are and what our end game is for the software, but we said, let's phase it in. Let's get us migrated over. It's already going to be significantly better than what we've got currently. And then when we're ready, we'll take on each project as we're ready for it. So we started off with distribution and marketing. And we've made quite a few customizations to it. So you mentioned are you this? Are you this? What type of business are you? That's where the order types come into play. So we've been using order types to distinguish who is who's owning that order, right? So if it's just an SO order, a sales order, that's going to be our distribution side. No one else needs to get involved other than the warehouse and accounting. But if it's got a different order type, then that's telling you, oh, then that's going to be this team or this team. So the order types has been really critical in our success. And then right now we're in the process of doing project accounting. That has really been a fun implementation. Not so much that it's challenging in the implementation side of it, it's challenging on the operational side, right? Because I'm having to think, okay, how can I put all of these tasks onto this template? And so creating the templates has definitely been a struggle because it requires us looking internally to see how are we functioning and how do we put that into the software. And once this project is done, we already have on the books that we are either December, if not January, we'll be starting the implementation of the manufacturing module.
Okay. Yeah, I think that story is very compelling for Acumatica because there's not many ERP products that can cross industries like that. At least do it with one platform. And you're typically dealing with multiples under the hood with the same name from a branding standpoint. And then they're syncing data back and forth, especially when you throw CRM in there as well. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting. Sounds like you're in a really cool position to be looking forward to bringing those efficiencies to the whole business, not just treating them as 3 individual silos.
You know, in the past, we still do, we're not perfect. We've made strides, but we really struggled with the centralization of information, right? Everybody had their information and it was all separated. There was not one central place that you can really find your information. So you would go to Sage, and I told you we were only really using it to create a sales order so the warehouse can pull the order, so we can pull it from inventory, and then we can bill the customer. When you're doing that, you can't see what the status of the order is. So I would try and have production meetings. It would take me like an hour and a half to 2 hours just to prepare for that, because I would export the whole list of orders, go through, try and do what I knew, and then have a meeting to get their feedback. But then I couldn't even really put that back into the system. It would be in an Excel file. So we were using Excel, we were using Outlook. We use a ton of email communication to really keep track of order statuses. We were using our calendars, just a lot of different places. So you'd have to go and hunt. Now you go to one place and it's there. You check Acumatica. Somebody asks a question or I ask somebody a question, check Acumatica. And even to this day, I think we're about a year and a half, almost a year and a half into it now that we've been working with Acumatica. And there's still times where I forget that I can find the information there, right? So I'll call and I'll be like, hey, ask a question. And they say, oh, I put it in there. And sometimes I forget to look because I went 10 years accustomed to having to hunt information to now we've got it all centralized in one location.
That's pretty validating. That's got to be a good feeling. It gives you kind of like a blueprint and a level of confidence to say, all right, let's now take this and do it in projects and do it in manufacturing once you have that core. And I like how you phased it in as well. I think a lot of people bite off too much and then they never launch. They never get off the ground because they try to do too much. You kept your initial go live reasonable. You got good at that. And now you've got a level of confidence and validation to take that out to the other areas.
Yeah, I definitely learned a lot in our first implementation. It was my first time ever. I've done ERP implementations such as upgrades, but never really switched from one to another. And one of the things that I advocate for and I tell people is like, you got to, whether you have the plans to switch or not, you got to focus on your data and keeping your data to be clean, to be organized, to be accurate. When we were in Mass 90 and Sage, back when we were on Mass 90, we were allowing sales reps to invoice. We were allowing like everybody could add an inventory item, right? So you had duplicate items, there was typos, everything was just not good, right? Not good quality data. And so that took me hours and weeks to export all the data, to a CSV file, clean it all up, organize it, get it to be accurate, re-import it. That way, when we migrated, I wasn't sending over a bunch of junk because I didn't want to go to this brand new software that's pretty and new and then give it a bunch of junk. So and a lot of that had to do with our partner. They were like, you got to make sure that your data is accurate and that it's clean. And that way you start off on a fresh start when we move over. So did a lot of work on that end, but I learned a lot. One of the things that I learned is that while I am a perfectionist and you want to ensure that everything is done accurately, I had to let go of thinking, okay, I'm going to give everything, when we migrate, absolutely everything's going to be perfect. I said, you know what? Let me do what's the base that I can get live and migrated. People can start learning and getting accustomed to the software. And then from there, these forms, these extra forms that I want that I didn't have as it was already, I can add them later, right? So I thought, what do I need to do that's comparable to what I already had, get that going, and then anything on, I can do that after the fact. And I'm glad that we did that, because then we learned that there was some stuff we didn't need to do, or because of Acumatica, maybe that form that we were going to do isn't really needed, or maybe it needs to be modified a little bit differently. So that's been why we've been phasing things out. We did the main stuff. We worked on it. We improved it. We used it for about a year. Now we're like, okay, let's do this. Now let's add this on. And who knows where we'll end up a year or two from now. I think once we finish manufacturing and the project accounting, I think we should be pretty solid, unless if they come out with something cool and I show up at the summit and I'm like, you know what, I need to add that in. Because they do that. They've got so much, for me, it's cool. I kind of geek out a little bit. I'm like, wow, this is so fun. This is cool. This is going to improve this. Do I need it? Maybe not, but you get excited when you see new technology.
What about CRM? You said CRM earlier. Did you launch that like with financials, or did you launch that first? And how has that been going with the Salesperson Adoption? I think salespeople are the worst users because they don't want to write anything down. That's what keeps it theirs, Yeah. So how's that gone for you?
They don't want to write it down, and then they don't want to do the training either. I remember that was a struggle, right? Getting sales reps to stop selling for a little bit so you can sit in on this training, right? And then when we went live, everyone loved it. The only people that complained about not knowing how to work things out was the salespeople, right? They're like, this won't do this. I'm like, we went over this in training, but you chose not to join the session. Our Clear Systems had suggested the option of starting with just the CRM and then going live, but it just didn't work out that way. We ended up going live with financials, distribution, and CRM. And actually the sales team really appreciates that it's all one, right? Really appreciates that it's all one, right? So they can be in one software, check inventory, create an order or a quote, and then also check the status of their existing orders. We don't overkill on the CRM. I think that's critical, right? Because you've got salespeople that don't want to put in the data. It's just going to slow them down. It's going to deter them from what they really want to focus on, which is selling. So we thought, okay, what's the bare minimum that we can get by with that we need, the information for, but that won't be too much of a hassle for them. They've actually gotten really accustomed to that now, and they're doing a really awesome job of keeping all their data in the CRM. But we also purchased the Outlook integration. So that has been really helpful, because you can shoot out an email in Outlook and then just click a button and it'll tie it to an opportunity. So I can open up an opportunity and I can see an email thread that they're having with the customer in their Outlook. So that's been really helpful. But we've been working on a lot of marketing related activities. We are going to start to ask for a little bit more information from them.
Interesting. You bring up marketing. You're actually looking to do like email blasts out of Acumatica, or is this the outside marketing system?
Yes and no. So we're in the process of a totally new website. We relaunched. We're hoping for December 1st. It's hard with the holidays, and I was actually out the last month with COVID. So that kind of delayed our go live date, but we will be launching a totally new e-commerce site and a regular WordPress website to attract our customers that are looking for big projects and solutions, and they want the turnkey, like white glove service. And then the e-commerce is really just for 1 and 2 pieces, just the distribution side of stuff. And with that, we need to be able to feed information to our marketing agency to really make better decisions, determine our ROI a little bit better, and see what we need to pursue. And so I don't want to be investing into our marketing agency to really make better decisions, determine our ROI a little bit better, and see what we need to pursue. And so I don't want to be investing money blindly without knowing if it's working. And so we're going to be working with the sales team to really fine tune the data that we're getting. We're able to see what they sold, what they have quoted, but I just want a little bit more data. That way marketing can make better decisions.
What about email blasts specifically, if you're even doing email blasts right now?
So we do email blasts through our marketing outside, different software. We are looking to do it through the Acumatica method, but we haven't gotten to that task yet. We're just trying to get this website done. I'm so tired of this website project.
What'd you go with for the e-commerce side of it? I'm curious.
Shopify, actually, because we knew that
okay.
there is the Acumatica integration with Shopify. So we thought, let's get the Shopify site. It's easy to use. It's the most popular one. And then we are not integration that way, less data entry, less work on our end.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're setting yourself up to do it, but just do it manually in the beginning since it's low volume.
Yep.
That's interesting. Very interesting. What about any customizations? Did you end up, I think you mentioned customizations at one point. Did you end up doing, like, what did you do in that area?
Yeah, we did do a few customizations. One of them is we worked with a company called BizTech. I think that's their company name. They're Sage business partners as well. So they have experience.
They're over in Glendale, right?
Yes.
I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So our business partner, Clear, put us in contact. Well, actually, I didn't really talk to them. Clear System handled all of that. We explained our needs to Clear Systems, and they said, we can't do it with this. We can try to customize it ourselves, but there is this company that already does this customization. They've already done the legwork. So they researched it, they tested it on their end, and then they gave us the green light of approval. And so we have a BizTech integration that takes the similar kitting feature from Sage. So Sage has a kit feature. So does Acumatica, but Acumatica's kits don't explode. You have to do a kit assembly in Acumatica. And we do some on our distribution side where we need kits to explode. So that way all the components are listed for the warehouse to pull it. And so it wasn't doing that. And we needed that to happen. That was a critical part of our business, because otherwise it was going to create a lot of additional work. And so we have that customization where our kits will automatically explode in the system. It took a lot of work though, because we had to customize it to where it would carry over to the pick sheets and print on the pick sheets and print on the shipments, but not print on the sales order, because the customer doesn't need to see those components. They just need to see the main thing that they purchased.
So you can enter an item on the sales order and it automatically generates multiple sales order lines for the components. Multiple sales order lines for the components.
Exactly. Yep.
And then somehow maintains a relationship between the component lines and the parent line, if you will. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And that
cool.
was done through the BizTech customization. We have the credit card processing software. I don't remember which, I think Century Business Solutions. That I know it might seem like something so simple, but it was pretty amazing from what we were using with Sage. Now we can just literally open up a sales order, click 2 buttons, and it'll email the customer a link for them to fill out their credit card. We used to email the customer a form, have them print it and fill it out and sign it, upload it, email it back to us. Then we would print it, enter the credit card information. Like it would drag out. And the only person that could do it was accounting. Now it doesn't matter who does it. You just, a sales rep can easily send the link to the customer and the customer can process the payment. So that's been pretty awesome to work with. Just more makes us feel like we're more modern, right? We're more with the times. Our industry is a little bit behind the times as a whole. Technology isn't really on the forefront of our industry unless if you move to the automation side. So to be able to use something like as simple as sending credit card links to customers, it helps, because customers aren't like,
huge.
I gotta print this form.
There's the millennial thing kicking in there, right?
Yeah.
What? I wonder how many times you said the phrase, "Why are you using paper for this?" in a couple of years span. For a while
so that's been one of our things that we've been trying to do this last year, has been to try to go as paperless as possible with as much things. Wherever we have the opportunity to, we are. The attachments in Acumatica has played a big role, right, in going paperless, because now we can just get an email. We'll get a bill from our vendor. Let's say we used to print the bill. And then enter it and then staple it and then file it. And we had all these files for accounting. Now we just grab it, drag it and drop it. And now we don't have to worry about printing it unless if somebody wants to get a hold of it. So that we've definitely saved paper and again, centralizing the information.
With your growth there, you can start using more of that office space for cubicles and less of it for filing cabinets, right?
Exactly. We've got a lot of filing cabinets that are just empty now.
That's great. Oh, that's awesome.
The problem with empty filing cabinets, though, I don't know if it's just our business or if it's other businesses, but if there's space for something and it's empty, suddenly it becomes filled with just junk, things that don't belong there. So I'll find like, I'll open up a file cabinet that used to be AP bills, and now it's got like first aid kits in it. And I'm like, where'd this come from? Like, this never used to be here. A kid, when they're cleaning their room and their parents tell them to clean, they shove everything in the closet wherever there's space. That's kind of what happens here. And I say, hey, tidy up a little bit.
You got to destroy the file cabinet while it's empty before it gets some more stuff in there. Well, that's cool. What about, looking forward for the business? Would you attribute any of, directly attribute your looking forward and your planning, your growth plans? Would you attribute any of that to Acumatica specifically, and that you're now more confident to set higher numbers because you've streamlined things? Or is that still kind of a work in progress, being able to see the fruit of that?
Absolutely. I can't say it's 100% attributed to Acumatica. A lot of it has to do with just the work of our team and the efforts that they've put in. We used to file our taxes in October every year. So taxes are in April, but every year we filed in October because we could never stay up to date. We used to file our taxes in October every year. So taxes are in April, but every year we filed in October because we could never stay up to date. In January, come February, we were ready to file taxes this year because we had our books up to date. We're actually closing periods at the following month. We're able to run accurate. I can pull up the financials and run accurate financials. And I never used to be able to do that because we were so behind. Doing bank rec was difficult in Sage. Now we're doing bank recs. Sometimes I have to tell them, hey, slow down, because I'm still doing some, I'm backdating some invoices, or I'm doing some stuff, like, slow it down, please. Let me catch up a little bit. But our accounting department is so on it because there's a lot of things that they've been able to automate. They're able to use like mass processes that saves them a lot of time that we couldn't do in Sage. And so because of that, I can pull up financials right now and have a relatively good idea of where we stand. And that allows us to be able to make better business decisions, be more proactive as opposed to reactive, to plan for the future. We actually, just today, I was doing a final walkthrough for a building that we're renting to expand operations and move our manufacturing over there. So now we'll have two facilities. And because of the data and the information that we have, we were able to confidently make those decisions as opposed to just doing it from the heart and the gut, like, okay, this feels right. I think we can do it. We can make it work. No, we just looked at our financials and we're like, yep, this is no problem. We were able to forecast with our CFO and see, can we afford this? How's cash flow going to look? And then we were able to make decisions. And that's just on the financial side. And then on the sales side, it's been really great to be able to see, to be able to run reports to see, okay, what did we sell? What do we got that's going to be completed? What do we have that's scheduled? What's not scheduled? So then we can operationally, especially towards the end of the year, right? Everyone wants to get those numbers in. We can look at this and have a 360 view and say, okay, these are the orders that we need to focus on because these are already set. We got these, but let's get these ones done. We weren't able to get that information in the past.
And when you say orders, did you actually mean like sales orders in Acumatica, or are you talking opportunities on the CRM side?
Actual sales orders. So our sales team will create an opportunity. Then from there, we'll make a quote. Once it's sold and confirmed, it turns into a sales order. Order type is different based off of obviously the type of order, right? And who's running the show for that. Is it going to be a distribution order? Are we manufacturing, et cetera? But that's what we use to forecast what we expect to do next month, what we're planning to complete this month, what has been completed, and also be able to see what orders are maybe stalled out that need focus from either myself or someone else on the team to get the order moving along.
What's an order?
Orders are maybe stalled out that need focus from either myself or someone else on the team to get the order moving along.
What's an order look like? I assume on the distribution time, you're probably looking at less than a week for fulfillment. What about the other types? So, what does it look like in terms of lifespan of an order?
Yeah. So if you're looking for a delivery and the order's stock order, 2 to 3 days to get it delivered, which isn't too bad considering like we're in the world of the Amazon, right? So Amazon can get you an order in a day or two. So we're not too far behind them, and we're nowhere near their scale. But that's if it's in stock and you need it delivered. If it's in stock and you want to will call it, you can pick up same day or within 24 to 48 hours. The tricky part is when it's not in stock, right? Because then we're at the mercy of the manufacturer or the supplier. Most of our suppliers that aren't manufacturing, they have finished goods in their warehouse within a week. But if we are, honestly, right now, one of our manufacturers is at about 20 weeks. So it's hard, and sometimes it's hard to get the customers to understand. But our manufacturers who are making the racks right now, they are extremely overwhelmed. And then with the supply chain issues, with the
COVID supply chain, yeah,
the shortage of steel, the cost of raw materials, the labor shortage, it's really affecting us. So when I say 20 weeks, can you imagine you're a customer, you get a building, you need to purchase some equipment. It's going to take you 20 weeks from when you make a deposit or when you confirm that to when you actually get to see that in your facility. Now, fortunately, if you already are functional and you're just adding on, well, that's not too bad, right? You can make do with it. But if you have a totally empty building and you're expected to wait 20 weeks, it's just crazy. But unfortunately, we don't have any control over that, right? The manufacturers give us the dates. Some of our manufacturers are between 6 to 8 weeks. We used to have some manufacturers that don't have any control over that, right? The manufacturers give us the dates. Some of our manufacturers are between 6 to 8 weeks. We used to have some manufacturers that were at 5 weeks consistently, but because of the way the supply chain has been going and labor and materials and stuff, they're at about 6 to 8 weeks right now.
Yeah, I got a friend who moved into a new house recently, and it was a couple months before they had a couch in their living room.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all over the place. COVID
It's
supply
insane.
chain stuff.
A friend of mine ordered my best friend, actually, her and her fiance ordered a couch on Black Friday. They did not get it until March. I'm like, what did you do? Like, you just sat on the floor and watched TV sitting on the floor. It's just crazy. My little brother just recently, he got a new condo and he ordered a kitchen table about 2 months ago. Still hasn't seen the kitchen table come in yet. It's just, it's crazy.
It's affecting everywhere. Well,
Yeah.
Julia, I know you're super busy and boy, even recovering from COVID and starting advice to people who are implementing Acumatica and just based on lessons that you learned through the process?
Yeah, I would say one critical thing is to do your due diligence with the software, right? I love Acumatica and it's the perfect fit for me, but if you're looking at other softwares, do more than one demo. Like, I think I did 3 or 4 demos, maybe even 5. Like, we saw it, I did a lot of research on my own and I wanted to make sure this was going to work for me. Then the next thing is have the right partner. Your partner is going to make or break you. You can do all the work that, you can do everything, but if they're not there and they're not supporting you and they don't understand your business, then it's not going to go as smooth as you'd like it to go. Our partner didn't just support the implementation, but they actually came on site and they understood our business and how we operated and where we wanted to be. And so they saw that same vision and they were not just a vendor, but they were a partner. And then again, the data, I never plan to switch softwares ever again, but I control the data right now as if I was, because we put a lot of work in to clean it up. And so I want to maintain that data to be clean, inventory items to be consistent. Just having consistency in the software's data is really critical. And then other than that, I mean, it's not as easy as you would like to think it is. But once you're live, it's amazing. But it's not like, okay, I'm live and then the switch is on and then things are working perfectly. No, you go through your hiccups and that first week is a struggle, right? Because you learn everything that you didn't think about or you didn't plan on. But the implementation, it's not easy, but you just got to think about where the end result's going to take you and just think of that finish line and you can get through it.
Yeah, I like the point you made earlier about, you wouldn't necessarily attribute the success just to Acumatica. It was the work that the team put in, specifically your point on the data, dump it in as is. There's a lot of opportunities during a transition period that you can take advantage of or not. And it really has nothing to do with the software. It just has to do with whether you take those opportunities during the transition. It sounds like you put in the work and you're reaping the benefits. And now you know what it takes to do the next step. It's not automatic. It's not just buying the licenses for the next module. You have a process to repeat that I'm sure is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but you know what it's like coming out on the other end of it. So hopefully you're motivated.
and I definitely, there wasn't much time to talk on that, but our team, we discussed a little bit in the podcast about the success of the company, but it couldn't have been possible without our team and without Acumatica. We grew by 42% or 43% last year, which was pretty insane. The year before then, it was like 25-ish%. This year, we're on track to grow. This year, we're on track to grow even more so than what we did last year. And for next year, we're aiming for another 25 to 30%. And it's not easy, right? Thanks to Acumatica, we've been able to manage all the orders, the production, the activity, the controls, the security and stuff. But if it weren't for our team, we would definitely not be here today. Our team is literally amazing. I've been out of the office for a month and I miss them. I see them and give hugs and stuff because we're a big family here. And I'm just excited to be back. And I'm really thankful that they've been able to help support our growth and be a part of the end result for what QMH can be.
That's awesome. With all that growth, even more so, and being out for a month, thank you so much for taking the time to share your Acumatica story with us.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Bye for now. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.